fearful of any mistakes. But we've got that square. Now, I'm going to argue that this is actually a cube in perspective. And how is that possible? What's that? Okay, yeah, so it would be what? We've got the option of 1 or 2 point perspective. Which one would this be? And where would that vanishing point be? Yeah, right in the center of the square, right? And that's the only way that can be 1 point perspective. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to go back to a square, and I'm going to put my eye down here somewhere. So this is how I'm viewing through maybe this picture plane that cube. And I'm looking down on the cube now, and I'm going to also draw a couple of cubes out to the side of that. Same size, with a little bit of space in between. And again, I got my proportions a little bit wrong, so I need to extend that out. I'm keeping it all light right now. I'll come back in and darken some things up a little bit later. But concentrate on proportion. Remember during summer op, I told you that there's a couple of things if you start to get right. Once you start to get these things right, everything clicks. One is proportion, and the other is making sure you're going to the right vanishing point. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to imagine the seam of our book as our horizon line. And what is that? Where is that horizon line in relationship to ourselves when we're viewing something, as we perceive it?
Eye level.
Eye level. So when we walk outside, especially at the beach, you start to recognize that. As you move up and down, that thing basically stays in the same place, but it's way off in the distance, and that's our horizon line. Now what I want to do is we're going to put a single point right in the middle. That's going to be our 1 point perspective. And now I want you to draw a cube down here. And don't go quite halfway, but maybe a little bit above that. And to draw that cube in 1 point perspective, we're going to start out with the same simple square. And then what do I need to do?
Take the corners to the vanishing point.
Take the top corners to the vanishing point. Because this is below my eye level, those need to go to the vanishing point. Now, because this is foreshortening as it moves towards that horizon, will this distance along this back edge be shorter or longer than the distances that we've got for each of the sides of our square? Shorter. Exactly. So I'm going to go about right there. That feels somewhat right. And now I can go back in and add a little bit more line weight to the outer edge. Make that cube pop out a little bit out here to stand off from those construction lines. And here's where 1 point perspective, I've got a little bit of a problem with the way that it's taught and the way that people use it, but we're going to draw another cube in 1 point perspective out to the side. So again, I'm going to start with a square, and those same corners I'm going to hit going towards that vanishing point. And then also this bottom corner. And I'm going to keep the same depth going back. And essentially I'm just going to finish this cube off. Just very quickly. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. A little bit of distance over here. Start off with a square again. So as you're doing this, what's wrong with it?
The front face should be converging to another vanishing point.
If we were doing 2 point perspective, and that's why typically we do sketch in 2 point perspective rather than 3, is because this 1-point perspective is it's a little extra simplified. Everything that's facing us kind of has the same dimension as if it was a flat drawing, yet when we perceive something, it does typically move towards vanishing points over here or up there. But on this one, we're simply going to go with the way that this 1-point perspective is traditionally done. Just darken in the outsides, make sure they stand out from our construction lines. Notice that I'm almost with every line I'm rotating the page. And that was not very good. And I'm also leaving these corners that I don't perceive as the edge of the box. I'm leaving them a little bit lighter than these outside lines. And that'll come into play when we start to get into line weights again. But that's a simple lesson on 1-point perspective. Now, what if, and these boxes are below the horizon line, that's why we're seeing the top face. Just for the sake of continuing to practice some hatching, let's do a light hatch across the front face of these. I got not quite a 1/4 of an inch in between each of these. And my default typically is I've got a light source coming over my top left shoulder. And so that would make this face a little bit darker, so I'm going to hatch it a little bit darker.